author Sarah A. Chrisman.
I'm Gabriel Chrisman.
And today we are discussing Love Before Duty by Mrs. L.T. Meade. Now, this is a classic paperback novel.
It's sort of the yellowback novel or the penny dreadful.
Yeah, I think this one's 1893, I want to say. Let me check the date.
A lot of these didn't have dates in the front.
Yeah, a lot of them didn't.
Right.
But it's late 19th century.
Mm-hmm.
And
I have not read this one.
yeah, but I have.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a bit of a romp. The cover gives you absolutely no clue as to the story.
It has nothing whatsoever to do with the inside of the book.
Nothing whatsoever to do with the story that's in there.
Which I'm very familiar with from early science fiction paperbacks.
Right.
Right.
So what this is actually is, this is a story of London flower girls. Think Eliza Doolittle, but a few years earlier. And these are very poor flower sellers.
They have become a trope since Eliza Doolittle and all of that.
They really have.
Yeah.
They really have. Oh, I need one more dish. Yeah, you talk and tell a little bit about paperback novels.
Yeah, so the paperback novels, especially what later were referred to as the pulps, because of the quality of paper they were printed on, these were the low literature. These were basically novels that were never intended to be literary, but were just intended to be commercial, to provide the readers some bit of light entertainment. They often were the beginning of sort of genre fiction as well.
Right.
So romance, as in the case of this one.
And that's what this one is.
Right.
This is a romance. This is, as I said, London flower girls, and there are basically two main flower girls that this story follows. One is the good, pure heroine, who is the sweet,
Predictably enough, yes.
Predictably enough. And it's really her story, as annoying as she can be. Because she is so good.
Overly so, yes.
Overly so. And then there is the even more painfully good one, who is the really prissy one, who is always trying to get the other one to join her guild. And the first one is in love with the brother of the prissy one. And the brother is almost as prissy as his sister. And then the first flower girl has a drunken mother who winds up, it's complicated, it's a paperback story, so there's all sorts of convolutions in the plot, but to simplify it a bit, the drunken mother winds up stealing some money that the prissy sweetheart has left in care of the first flower girl. And to try to repay this money that she has lost, she goes to this really nice flower seller. This man he grows flowers and vegetables for market, so he's a market gardener.
Yeah. With
one of those little cottages just outside of London, and she goes to him to ask to borrow the money, and he is really flattered that this woman would trust him to ask him this, and he's like, wow, you trust me that much? Or, wow, will you marry me? I'll loan you the money if you'll marry me. And she then agrees to marry him, and she borrows the money so that she can pay back the prissy one. Now at this point, I am totally rooting for her to get together with this really sweet market gardener, because he's a really sweet guy. He's older than her, but I didn't like her sweetheart. Right. And so I was rooting for her to get together with this really nice older market gardener.
This is often the way that romances work, right?
Yeah.
They provide you several different people that different types of people can identify with.
I don't identify with him, but I just thought he was a better choice.
Right.
And then in the end, she does wind up with the prissy one. It's like, really?
Oh dear, yes.
Seriously?
Right.
So anyhow, that's this story. Classic paperback novel. And I told you the whole thing because you'd be really hard pressed to find this
Finding
one.
a copy. These are not the ones that get reprinted. These
Yeah.
are not the ones that became famous in any way, shape, or form.
Right.
And again, there was no literary cachet attached to any of these.
Right. Now, I wanted to address one of these now because recently mainstream publishers have announced that pocket paperbacks,
The mass market paperback, as it was called.
the mass market paperbacks, they're not going to be making those anymore. And so I thought it was a good time to bring up the subject.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what these depended on for a market, they depended on very low margins, very large quantity of sale.
Mm-hmm.
These were very cheap books, and they could do that because they were selling a lot of them. They really didn't make much money off of these, and that's why...
And they didn't pay the authors much, and that's
hardly
all
anything.
part of it. Right.
Right. And they are having trouble selling the same sort of quantity now, and so that's why these are not being produced anymore.
Mm-hmm.
They're still going to be producing the paperbacks that are almost the size of a hardcover.
Trade paperbacks.
The trade paperbacks. Yeah. But it's going to be harder to find the ones that'll fit in your pocket. And that's because these, they really didn't make anybody any money. They were not quite a loss leader, but close.
There was the entire publishing market gained from having more people reading.
Right.
And so the ability for people to buy cheap paperbacks, to read more in general, it built the whole market for books overall.
Right.
And so having an entry point, basically, a low-cost option for people to be able to buy that, and also making that option as widely accessible as possible. These yellowbacks and penny dreadfuls were sold in drugstores and five and dimes and just train stations and anywhere. And honestly, the mass market paperbacks up through the 80s and 90s and early 2000s were sold in grocery stores. They were sold in department stores. They were sold all over the place. And then there were sort of mainstream bookshops in every mall.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And mostly a lot of those sold those mass market paperbacks.
Yeah, and actually in the 1950s, which science fiction authors tend to call the golden age of sci-fi,
That's right.
most of the sci-fi that was coming out, nearly all of it really, was in the pocket paperback form.
Pulp fiction.
Pulp fiction,
Absolutely.
quite literally.
On the cheap paper. Yep.
And because they were able to make and sell these at scale, they were able to take chances on unknown writers, which is where you get
new
Asimov
authors.
and Bradbury and Heinlein
and Larry Niven and Jerry Pournelle.
all the greats getting their start. And that's not as much happening anymore.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate.
It's harder for new writers to break into publishing because all they're looking for is a sure thing and the next big thing.
Well, they're also looking for, they're looking for what they think is the next big thing, and they're looking for what they think is the next trend. You know, when I start, the point at which I stopped even trying to go through mainstream publishers and just said, okay, I'm going to be publishing my own stuff from now on. It was a few years ago, and when the mainstream publishers started, no joke, and I'm not exaggerating, actually on their submissions guidelines, flat out saying, we are not taking any submissions from white, straight authors. I was like, okay, well that rules me out. They were really blatant about it too. They didn't try to put it in any sort of code or sugarcoat it or anything. No, we are not taking any works from white straight authors. I was like, how can you even say that?
Right.
So yeah, I self-publish all my own stuff now.
But yeah, the publishing world used to have entry points, a variety of entry points where new authors could get started and where the reading public got exposed to all sorts of new and different material at a very low cost. And that is going away lamentably. And in fact, in many cases, it's already gone. And the disappearance of this publishing format is just kind of the final nail in the coffin.
Yeah, well, at the same time though, They never did pay the authors very much for these.
No, they didn't, but honestly, new authors,
Careful. Careful.
They had to establish themselves.
Yeah, but
and
these
build
are
their market.
But these are the ones actually creating the product when it comes down to it.
They are, yes.
Publishing industry wouldn't exist without writers.
Yes, this is very true.
It's like the country wouldn't exist without farmers because we need food. The publishing industry wouldn't exist without writers. So, anyhow. And I don't know what the mainstream publishers are saying on their submissions guidelines these days.
Who knows?
Who knows?
Yeah.
And they flip at the drop of a hat and onto what they think the next big thing is going to be. And now they're probably saying, oh, we only accept submissions from this group now. Who knows? But anyhow, back to the idea of the paperbacks. It's fun when you can find them.
Yeah, and I think it's really a great way to look at the history of these eras, is to look at the things that average people were reading, and that is not normally the high literature.
Right. This is about as far from high literature as you can get. Right. This is the low
This
stuff.
would have been the everyday, and this is more a reflection of everyday taste and everyday culture, and that's always something good to see. It's the entertainment.
It's the lowbrow entertainment.
It's melodrama.
It is melodrama.
Absolutely.
It is that.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. And on that note, if you're looking for something a little bit higher brow than this, don't forget to check out my books. We hope you enjoyed this video, and happy reading.